What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with another episode of Lions Latest, going through the latest Detroit Lions news. And today, we're going to be doing something much different. We have a little buzz going around right now, and I just want to do a short little video, short, sweet, straight to the point, because I feel like if something crazy happened here, and this player did come out of retirement and potentially sign with an NFL team, especially if it was with the Detroit Lions, and I didn't do some form of content on it first, I would feel really darn bad, because there is some slight buzz out there right now. Now, I don't want to call this like an official rumor, like, oh, hey, there are conversations going on, because I haven't seen anything like that officially. Now, an official rumor, I don't even know if that makes any sense. The point is, I haven't really seen anything that's like said, this player is speaking to this team, or the Lions have reached out to this player. I haven't seen anything. Maybe there's stuff out there and I've just missed it. There is some buzz going on right now, and it really started with the player. So with all that being said, let's get into it. Welcome right to a video. Glad you guys are here, and yes, we are back with another Detroit Lions video, but this one will be a little bit different. I'm going to try to get right to the point on this one, because there's a really good chance that this player does not come out of retirement. It's what it sounds like is going to happen. He doesn't come back to the NFL and play for another team for a final playoff run here. There's a really good chance that that's what does happen. So there's a really good chance that nothing comes out of this. However, because there is some buzz out there, why not talk about it at least a little bit? The Lions have recently signed some veterans, Bruce Irvin, and I'm still very excited about that addition. I think it's going to be a very crucial addition. It could be a crucial addition for the Lions, knowing that James Houston may not be back late December. Recently have signed some veterans to their practice squad, certain guys like Bruce Irvin that they're hoping that eventually can get into football shape and can help them through this kind of stretch playoff run. Because that's happened and there's some buzz around this player, and also when you look at the position, clearly could still look for some help as a defensive end. This buzz with JJ Watt, I think we just have to touch on it. Now, if you're wondering where all this has come from, maybe you've heard some things on this. It really, to me, kind of started with himself on the Pat McAfee show, making his weekly appearance. He talked about a recent workout that he and TJ Watt did, and the way that he worded it, as TJ Watt essentially, I guess, texted him after the workout and was like, hey, you were lifting a lot of weights. What was that for? He kind of brought it on himself. I think some of the buzz that's going around is like, hold up, what is that for? Does that mean he's trying to make a return to the NFL?
D-Bud has a question.
I'm going to be trying to play for another 4 more seasons. I'm going to start calling Aaron real quick.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Pittsburgh Steelers got you jacked up.
And I think on top of that, you also have Pat McAfee and those guys who are really going to push it, you know, just in a funny way. They're going to kind of push it like, hey, something's about to go down here. This means he's coming back. And in a jokingly way, I think, of course. I think JJ Watt absolutely squashed the potential of this actually happening. He kind of played around with it a little bit, but he also did make it sound like not coming out of retirement, especially after the post that he made on X, where he said this: I appreciate the thought very much, but I spent morning with my wife and 10-month-old son. Now making the turn on the 9th hole with a Miller Lite in one hand and a hot dog in front of me kind of beats practice. Now that was posted on September 15th, but again, on the Pat McAfee show a few days ago, he said that. Thought of coming back and returning from retirement, and the big thing that stood out to me here is the guy's only 34 years old, okay? I mean, I get it. He's been out of the league. He hasn't played since 2022. Did kind of try to squash it in a way and saying, like, you know, it creeps in my head and then I always have to shut it down. But the reason that I think now there's some buzz and there's excitement potentially from Lions fans, and the Lions fans may be picking up on this, he continued on and brought up the fact that Lions fans have basically been sliding in JJ Watt's DMs, I guess, and being like, hey, join the Detroit Lions. First off, shout out to One Pride there being on him. You got him to recognize, but the fact that he brought up the Lions on his own, I think, of course, again, that brings more buzz to the situation.
Lions fans, it came out of nowhere.
Oh,
I have no idea.
Come on, JJ.
Here's what really stood out to me when he was speaking to Pat McAfee on their show, is that when he said this, 99 is also not available.
No, 99 is not available either, so it's okay. I mean, it's a no non-starter.
Which is a non-starter. But the fact that he said that, and he kind of went on to say, you know, oh yeah, with every team. But the fact that he said that right after they talked about the Detroit Lions, we know Julian Okwara wears number 99 for us. The fact that he said it right after they were talking about the Detroit Lions, to me, made me immediately think to myself, and I could be reaching here, it means he's looked. It means he's looked. It means he's at least kept his eye on it. I would think. Now, maybe not. Maybe he's just like, look, no one has 99 available, which is probably pretty accurate. But to me, I'm immediately thinking like, hold up. That means he's at least maybe taking the time to look and see, hold up, do the Lions have number 99 available? Okay. Again, I just thought it was interesting. It's something, again, it's building some buzz, maybe out of nothing here, but it is building some buzz. So I thought we'd talk about it. Continued on saying, is there any other team playing incredibly well with a quarterback crushing it? I mean, let's just use our brain basically here.
You speak about Pittsburgh because my brother's there, but Or is there another team that's playing incredibly well right now who's got a quarterback that's crushing it? That's
I got one for
got a
you.
lot of connections. Like, I mean, let's use our brains.
Yeah, I got one
I
for you.
don't think.
Now, I don't know that he was talking about the Detroit Lions there. He could have been talking more about the Houston Texans because it started off again talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers joining TJ Watt, 6-3. They were talking about the workout. Then he brought up the Detroit Lions. You should join our Lions for this playoff run, right? We could do something historically. You could do something as well, potentially go get a Super Bowl. I love the way that this lines up. This is a great storybook idea. But then he also, I think, was bringing up the Houston Texans as well, returning to the Texans. So that could have been more of towards the Houston Texans playing extremely well. They just beat the Bengals. Their quarterback's playing really well. CJ Stroud is coming off some really strong games. He could have been pointing that more towards the Houston Texans, though he didn't say exactly. So again, if you want to speculate, maybe he was talking about the Detroit Lions. I mean, I guess we could throw ourselves into that conversation as well. Playing really well. Quarterback is crushing it. I think we fall into that conversation as well. But, that's just my opinion. But then he came back and kind of squashed it again, saying that, nothing is happening and that it's nice to wake up on a Monday and, feel good. Your back doesn't hurt. You wake up on a Monday morning and you feel good. With moments where he thinks about the potential of returning, but then he kind of squashed it again. So again, there's a really legitimate chance with all of this that nothing happens, that he stays in retirement. And look, hey man, if that's what's for him, do it, man. If that's what makes him happy, he sounds happy right now. That's what it seems like. But there also is that urge, and it makes sense. I mean, we hear a lot of former players talk about that, like, yo, once I leave, like thinking about being back in that situation. And honestly, the great aspect here, if we were just to go down this road and say, okay, would it make sense for the Detroit Lions to add this player? Let's just go down this road because why not? We're already here. Yes, because the Lions wouldn't have to add him right away. And really the big thing for him was like, hey man, yeah, I'm lifting. I haven't ran, right? So I'm not in that shape physically to go run. And that was kind of his reasoning. Like, yeah, the lifting's there, the power is there right now, but I'm not even running right now. I guess that makes an ideal spot, kind of like some of the other players as well, specifically like a Bruce Irvin, because he would get that opportunity to get into football shape. It's not like we would have to sign him and have him play in this weekend. Like, we need you, man. Like, no, that guy could absolutely sign towards the end of the regular season. I mean, you could just see like, okay, have the Lions, are they going to make the playoffs? He could evaluate and be like, you know what? I think they are going to make the playoffs. I like what I've seen. I could sign with like a week or two left in the regular season. Maybe I get some snaps, kind of get into it, and then I can help you through the playoff run. Like,
I'll say to that point, it'd make a ton of sense for the Lions to make those calls kind of now and be like, hey, are you interested? Kind of gauge if there is any interest, because for him, I'm sure you're not going to want to sign like 2 weeks with left in the season and then start running around trying to get in football shape. Like, that's got to start. If not now, I mean, you're probably too darn late. So let's get moving now if you do have some interest.
he's in that position where he could wait a little while. Also, I looked at the salary cap situation for those three teams. None of those three teams really have much cap space right now. Lions just over $3 million in cap space according to Over the Cap. Houston at 3.3, Pittsburgh at 3.8. Most teams don't have a ton of cap space right now, but if we were comparing us to those other two teams, Houston and Pittsburgh, we're all kind of in the same boat there as well. You could always throw money on a future years, even if he's not under contract for multiple years. So there's always ways to kind of work around it to still make sure that he feels like he's getting fairly compensated for coming back. But of course, we had to talk about this. Now, when you talk about the fit, if we were just going down this hypothetical path of the Detroit Lions added him, why would he help the Lions? What would he mean to the Detroit Lions? Well, I'll say this. We can just go back to his last season in the NFL. 2022, plays in 16 games, statistically puts up 56 pressures and 29 hurries. Now, to put that into context, Aiden Hutchinson this season has already posted 52 pressures. He's been an insane pass rusher for us this year. He's taken a big leap as a pass rusher this season. But still, J.J. Watt was doing his thing in 2022. He was still doing his thing. And another thing that stuck out to me, just because I was interested, so I started to look back at who they played in 2022. If you look at some of the playoff teams or teams that are in the top of the NFC, San Francisco, he played him twice. Philadelphia, he played in 2022. He played against Minnesota. And if you look at those 4 games and you add them all up in those 4 games, he had 17 combined pressures in just those 4 games, including 10 between the 2 San Francisco matchups. One game he had 4, the other one he had 2, and against Philly he had 4 pressures. So he was impactful against some of the teams that you're likely to see in the playoffs. We'll see on Minnesota, but the other 2 teams we know are probably going to be in the playoffs. So he was impactful in those games as well, which of course I had to look into that. I don't think I really need to spend much time talking about what he is as a player. Okay, we know what he is as a player. I think we all kind of have a sense of how darn good this guy is, but I still looked a little bit just because, look, I get it. It would be different now because again, he would have to get in football shape. Like he said, he would have to run. He would have to get some hits in. He may not be the same player that we've even seen in 2022. But to just look back at what was the final season, what did it look like with Arizona? There was still so much in his tank when you watched him. Statistically, yes, he posted 12.5 sacks to go along with the 50+ pressures that season. But then when you watch him and you just watch his skill set, there's just still so much to like there. The getting hands, the active hands in passing lanes, has incredible hands as a pass rusher, consistently keeping himself clean. I would still say there's good quickness off the line of scrimmage. It didn't look elite, but it was good, specifically to set himself up for run defense, to position himself, fill his gap, play his ground, get his hands up, position himself well. He still showed good quickness off the line of scrimmage there. You saw some ability to get offensive tackles on their heels, which stuck out to me most. Guys like Lane Johnson being able to get them back on their heels.
Here with the really nice hips, you also see the ability to just open up offensive linemen, get them off balance. I mean, he's a master of creating some of these pass rush, bull rushing opportunities.
The versatility that he brings as well, right? He's kind of in our defense, like your 3-4 defensive end, you would think of 6'6", 280 pounds, could kind of play the John Kaminsky, Josh Paschal role, where you kind of play a defensive end in this defense. But he's also shown so much flexibility, specifically his ability to go step inside, rush the passer, also play the run as well, though you don't love him against double teams in the interior. But being able to rush the passer, get pressure from the interior, and not be completely out of place on like a 3rd down and say 5, where they could still run the football, but you want some pressure. His ability to get interior pressure and still, even in 2022 in certain games, play in the interior, play as a 3 technique, occasionally play as more of a defensive end, more of a consistent defensive end, playing outside of an offensive tackle, but he's shown that flexibility. His ability to get pressure from the interior, the bull rushing ability is absolutely there.
To keep himself clean, but specifically the angles that he takes, the ability to close on a quarterback, straight line pass to the quarterback to finish some of these plays.
A 2nd, 3rd effort wins. Now, look, I think maybe some of the lateral quickness has pulled back a little bit, maybe in 2022 than what it was at early in his career, though he was never really known for that. You find him on the ground a little bit more than maybe you would love, but the ability to continue to push the pocket, squeeze the pocket, right, being able to win through offensive linemen, that is a specialty of his, and his ability to do that from a ton of different spots was so impressive. You also talk about the football intelligence. It doesn't take long to watch him and feel it, whether that's getting hands in passing lanes, recognition of zone blocking schemes, the ability to slice upfield, get penetration, get into the backfield, recognize pass and run very quickly, recognize the scheme that the offense was playing, or that he brings at the point of attack as an edge defender against the run, to be able to set a really strong edge against tight ends. Like, there is still a lot within his game that you like. Now, sure, some things probably did get taken back a little bit again. He didn't like a freakish athlete, but the power, the contact balance as a pass rusher, the hand usage, the ability to get 2nd, 3rd effort wins, like, there was still so much to like when you watched him that, again, this is probably extremely unlikely that he would come out of retirement, play in the NFL. He kind of squashed it, but he didn't completely. Like, he let the joke kind of go on, and it was funny, and it was entertaining, and I think that's what it was more than anything, than him being like, yeah, legitimately, I'm interested. He also brought up connections, and I wasn't sure where he was going with that or who he was speaking on, because that was really tied along to that quote where he talked about any other team that's playing really well and that their quarterback is crushing it. If he was talking about the Lions, I don't really know what connection he was talking about. I went through our coaching staff, our personnel kind of briefly here. Didn't see anybody that had like obvious connections, whether that was with Houston or Arizona, or even back in college at Central Michigan or Wisconsin. I didn't see any obvious connections for JJ Watt there, just in terms of, oh, they were on the same coaching staff, but there could be some. I mean, his time in Arizona, you have the LA Rams, so maybe there's something with that. I didn't see any obvious connections. I mean, maybe he just knows certain guys, but he also, again, probably wasn't talking about our staff. I'm assuming he was talking about Houston staff, and that's why he was talking about, quarterback crushing it, playing really well right now. I'm assuming he was talking about Houston a little bit more there, and kind of the connections that he has with Houston, because with the Lions, I don't think there's any obvious connections, but I absolutely could just be missing something when it comes to that. But the real question is, should the Lions make a call to JJ Watt? Absolutely. Why not? You should absolutely make a call to JJ Watt, see if there was any sort of interest, and just gauge it. I would stick with and be like, hey, are you interested at all? You would have to keep us kind of in the loop here. Anyways, again, I don't think this will happen. I'm not going to call this rumor, but there is some buzz, and I think it's fun to talk about. JJ Watt is a dog. If he does not come out of retirement, probably would make sense that he wouldn't come out of retirement. Wishing him the best going forward. It sounds like he's enjoying his life out in retirement right now, and it makes a ton of sense. Do the Lions need JJ Watt? I don't think they need him. It's his ability to get interior pressure. Because he can get interior pressure like he can, we haven't seen a ton of Levi this season, so we really haven't gotten much there. Isaiah Muggs is out this week with an illness. There's some speculation of what's going on there. Aleem McNeil can get real pressure from the interior, but outside of Aleem, where do we consistently get that? And especially because he can kind of step in there on early downs as well and still give you pressure as an interior type of player between the tackles, that's a whole nother aspect. He can play kind of a different role than Bruce Irvin. I don't think they're the exact same skill set. Bruce to me is a more freakish athlete in terms of quickness, speed. He's just a freakish athlete at his age right now that's a little bit more of a pure edge player, play outside the tackles. But to me, I think it's something that's absolutely interesting.
I don't think it's absolutely necessary. I think the role that he would probably consistently play in, we already have a couple of guys that we like there between Pascal and also John Kaminsky. Then you also talk about playing in the interior. He doesn't have the exact body type for some of the defensive tackles to purely play in there, though there's flexibility in certain moments. I think on third down, you could put him out there and he could handle the run. That's probably not a spot they would want to consistently put him at. And then also as a pure, edge rusher, again, he wouldn't absolutely fit the same, I think, ideal need like a Bruce Irvin could fit a little bit better, but it could be beneficial to always get interior pressure. And as Dan Campbell said, you can never have enough pressure. So is it necessary? No. Would it be a cool addition? Absolutely. Would it be helpful? Sure, it probably would, especially if you got the same guy from 2022.
Being said, I'm going to leave that there. Don't get your hopes up on this. Okay? I'm not telling you to be like, hey, this might happen. Don't get your hopes up on this, but it is something that's fun to talk about. And every once in a while, you need to talk about things that are fun. And that's what this was. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.